Know who you are and where you have come from. You are The Gospel of Judas has two words that unlock a mystery. Barbello is used by Judas to identify Jesus. I know who you are and where you have come from. You are from the immortal realm of Barbello. According to most scholars and editors that worked on one of the translations of the Gospel of Judas says, the word Barbello apparently comes from Hebrew, and perhaps means God. The second word in the Gospel of Judas is, betrayal. This word is what we use to identify Judas. If you research into the word, you find that its meaning has changed over the many centuries. This is something that seems common. Many other words have changed in meaning as centuries have passed. Mostly in their meanings. Lucifer is one such word, a Latin word that means light bringer. It has now become equated with Satan or the devil, despite the fact that Lucifer actually appears in the Latin Vulgate as a reference to Jesus. Most people in the USA don't read or speak Latin, so they are unaware of this difference. The meaning of Satan has changed as well. Satan comes from Aramaic and simply means adversary or opponent. In Mark 8:33, Jesus refers to Peter as Satan. But most people in the US do not speak Greek, Hebrew or Aramaic either. So, they do not understand the meaning of this word, either. For them, Satan now just means the devil. Take it a step further, and it got personified into Lucifer. Betrayal is associated with Judas Iscariot, who has become known as the worst of all villains. And as we see it today, no one in their right mind would want to be associated with Lucifer, Judas, Satan, or a betrayer. It seems at least a portion of the truth has been hidden in plain view for almost 2,000 years. During these years, it has become clear to those in power that the masses could be easily swayed by what they were told, and most won't check the facts anyway. In the older days most could not read. Reading materials were always controlled. It was easy to fill people with fear and misunderstanding of words that were once written, once known, and once understood. From generation to generation, the legacy of fear has been handed down as tradition. Betray comes from the Latin word, tradire. Tradire means to reveal, declare and make known what is seen, including divine revelations. Hardly an evil word, tradire is also the root of the word tradition. An archaic, Old English word bewray appears in Isaiah in the King James Version and is translated as to uncover. Bewraith is found 3 times in the version. Twice in Proverbs where it is translated as to proclaim, and make known. And in Matthew 26:73, it is translated as to make manifest, evident. Only when you understand what the word betray once meant can you understand the simple truth about Judas. When Judas realized the identity and origin of Jesus, Barbello, Jesus then asked him to reveal it and make it known to others. Judas did as he was asked. But, if you understand what Judas was asked to reveal, a truth that would indeed leave most disturbed as well as astonished, it becomes imperative to find a more definite, plausible meaning for Barbello. Anyone who has heard of a bar mitzvah might realize that bar, in Aramaic, means son, and in particular, son of the word that follows. If bar means, son of, and if, as the scholars say, Barbello seems to indicate the word God, the logical procession might be to find a time and language when God was once known by a word sounding like bellow. Starting with the first line of Genesis, you can see that in Hebrew, God is another of those words that has also changed in meaning over the ages. In English, the Bible speaks only of one God, but in Hebrew, in over 2,600 instances, the word is plural, gods, or Elohim starting with the first line of Genesis. Since the beginning, the word has been gods. Some of the gods have been identified by name, such as Yahweh, who is believed to be the only God of the universe by approximately half of the people on the earth. Yahweh is described as a war god, with an impressive death count including men, women, children, babies and animals. The English translation gives the impression that the entire Bible was only referencing the words of one God, Yahweh, when this is apparently not the case. Sometimes different gods gave conflicting instructions. In Genesis, for example, there were conflicting instructions pertaining to what mankind may and may not eat. In Genesis 1, mankind is told by the unnamed Elohim that we may partake of all seed-bearing fruits and vegetation on the face of the earth. There is no mention of anything forbidden, and there is also no mention of Yahweh. The unnamed gods in Genesis 1 stated we were created in their image. Genesis 2 tells a different story. Yahweh tells mankind that severe penalties will apply if certain forbidden vegetation is so much as touched. The list of forbidden fruits and vegetation continues to this day. Unlike the unnamed Elohim in Genesis 1 who stated we are in their image, the Yahweh Elohim says we came from the dust of the ground and will return to dust. Of those gods who were identified by name in the Old Testament, there is one who seems to be the chief enemy of the jealous Yahweh. The name of the enemy god is Baal. Baal means Lord. People had been acknowledging the Lord for a very, very long time. Since the earliest writings, people have acknowledged the presence of gods. And all over the world, people know the gods came from above. Some were kind and arrived with gifts of food and civil teachings. The ancient root of Baal is in the Akkadian language, reaching back to Babylon and Babel. The tower is yet another word that has lost its meaning over the centuries. It was reduced to Babel after it was destroyed by Yahweh, but its meaning prior to its destruction is from Akkadian. Babilu actually means the gate of God. Yahweh destroyed the gate and confused the speech of mankind, and the speech continues to be confused today. Belu means the great Lord. This seems to bring us back to Barbelo, which seems now to mean, Son of the great Lord, God the Father. We have been told about encounters with someone who appears and disappears in a manner that is difficult to describe. He performed miracles, he healed the sick, and he reminds us we should be performing miracles ourselves. He appears to be fully human, and at other times he and the others like him are glowing with an extraordinary light. He seems to have been known by many different names, apparently preferring not to refer to himself by name at all. Throughout the millennia, his messages have been clear, simple and similar. He has imparted teachings about civil liberties and civility. Maybe raising the consciousness has resulted in the divine visits of Isis, a shining one. One can find ancient written accounts about the Watchers, or Shining Ones, glowing beings of great wisdom, referred to in Egyptian writings as Necheru. This word is even mentioned in Jeremiah 4:16 as a warning, saying, "The Nazarim come from a distant earth to give voice against the cities of Judah." In fact, it seems this word is the root of the word, Nazareth. If you consider there was no town by this name mentioned by historians, it is not mentioned in the Old Testament, and no one but Jesus is said to have come from this mysterious place. It would seem to be his descriptive surname. The great and ancient mysteries of consciousness, however, seem to have been trampled like a serpent, and fear has reigned in their place for thousands of years. The only ingredient necessary to assure this ongoing oppression of knowledge has been mandatory ignorance. While we have obeyed, the gates of wisdom and truth were closed, and the light that is ours by birthright, turned off. A new time is at hand. Communication and access to knowledge have finally been restored to us for the first time since the gate of God was turned to Babel by Yahweh. At last, we can finally see that we have been kept ignorant in much the same way that Adam and Eve discovered their nakedness.
once knocks on a Jew's door. The Jew answers, "Can I help you?" The Jehovah Witness at the door says, "Hello, sir. I'm here to tell you about the great Lord Jehovah." From inside, the Jew says, "Is that what you call him? You know, we have a name for him too." The Jehovah Witness replies, "No way." And the Jew comes back, "Yahweh."
They're both wrong.
So like a curious traveler on a quest, we embark upon a journey of information. Stay with us for a ride into knowledge.
The foundation of Israel's nation and religion is defined by its relationship to Yahweh. The historical rise of the nation and the emergence of monotheism within Canaanite territories of Hebrew settlements presented a challenge to our understanding of what was meant by the religious beliefs of the early period. The theology of David and the religious practices associated with him were in Jerusalem and Judah. The reference of Yahweh to David and his people are significant, but the same cannot be said about the beliefs and practices of the northern state of Israel. While politically the state extended its laws and customs to include the northern territories, the established local customs of the times surely continued. The northern kingdom of Israel's religious practices were characterized for a long period by its acknowledgement of only Yahweh, but also deities from the Canaanite pantheon, like El, Asherah, and Baal. And while Jonathan, the son of Saul, has a Yahwistic name, Ishbaal, another son of Saul, he carries a Baal name within his name. And similarly, Jonathan's son Meribbaal was given a Baalistic name as well. The anti-Baalistic attitude was a later introduction for the period of Elijah and Elisha in the 9th century BCE. The most important figures of the Canaanite pantheon were Baal, meaning Lord. Baal was a storm god and known as well as the king of heaven and earth. The outstanding deity in the Canaanite religion is El, whose name appeared as the chief component in such divine names as El Elyon, El Olam, Elohim, and El Shaddai. In the epics, El, who is also called the Bull El, and appears as the father of mankind and as a creator, but seldom figures actively in any of their mythology. The name El meant originally the strong one, or the leader, thus the bull was an appropriate designation. El was not thought to communicate with the other gods or men except through messengers, visits, or visions. El had a consort called Asherah. El was known as the begetter of creatures, and Asherah as she who gives birth to the gods. Asherah appears 40 times in the Hebrew Bible, but somehow we needed to use code when we used the word Asherah. Asherah, as the Canaanite goddess, appears in several Bible verses. She was brought into the court worship of Israel by Jezebel, the daughter of the king of Tyre. And one verse relates how Elijah vanquished 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who dined off of Jezebel's table. I suppose if Jezebel had prophets of Asherah, it would indicate her existence as a goddess. Now, for a long time after settlement in Canaan, Israel's religious practices were characterized by its acknowledgement of El, Baal, Asherah, as well as Yahweh. And as we just pointed out, names that carry components of these Canaanite deities appear regularly in the Hebrew Bible. And by the Proto-Judean Davidic period, the exclusivity of Yahweh was on the agenda, and there was a tendency to relate the exclusivity of Yahwehism to an earlier time whenever possible. The Canaanite god El came to be identified with Yahweh. Hence, El's consort Asherah was connected in one form or another to the concept of the chief god, now Yahweh. The sacred tree also has a close association with Asherah in the Hebrew Bible, whether as a cultic object or a goddess. It is possible that the tree or pillow or pole was an icon of the goddess. And while it is very difficult to define Asherah, we can conclude she is female and something divine that people worshiped at a point in time. Somehow she became made of wood and is considered a living tree that can be planted as well as cut down. Now, this is just a start on how Yahweh became the one and only God.
They focus intensely. They thrive on routine. Sometimes they respond in ways you don't expect. Seeing signs of autism in your child, we're here to guide you. With the right support, your child can reach milestone moments. We are here for your family. No-cost autism screeners, diagnostic support, personalized ABA therapy. Get started today at actionbehavior.com/autism.
Now, contrary to a traditional picture of the Israelites entering into Palestine from outside its borders, the current model is that they developed from the native Canaanite population, and the Israelite religion was accordingly much closer to that of the Canaanites' religion than the Bible actually suggests. The Israelites initially worshipped Yahweh alongside, as we said, a variety of Canaanite gods and goddesses. Again, such as El, who was the head of the Canaanite pantheon, Asherah, who was El's consort, as well as other major Canaanite deities like Baal. It was El, not Yahweh, who was the original God of Israel. The word Israel is based on the name El rather than Yahweh. El and his 70 sons, including Yahweh, made up the assembly of the gods, each member of which had a human nation under his care and control. Of course, y'all have heard Deuteronomy 32:8-9 describe how Yahweh received Israel when the Most High El Elyon divided the nations of the world amongst his sons. This incidentally suggests that El and Yahweh were not identified as the same God in that early period. And between the judges and the first half of the monarchy, El and Yahweh and other gods merged in a process of religious syncretism. El became a generic term meaning God, as opposed to the name of a specific God. Epithets such as El Shaddai came to be applied to Yahweh alone, diminishing the position of all Elohim and strengthening the position of Yahweh alone. Features and attitudes of Baal, El, and Asherah were all absorbed into the Yahweh cult. The 9th century BCE saw the starting up of nation-states in Syria and Palestine, including Israel and Judah, each with its own national god. Shamash was the god of the Moabites, Milcom the god of the Amorites, Queshta, god of the Edomite, and Yahweh the god of Israel. This development occurred first in the kingdom of Israel, then called Samaria, and then in Judah, the southern kingdom, where King Jehoshaphat was a strong ally of the dynasty of the northern kingdom. Now, even though the Bible generally proclaims that the northern kingdom was unfavorable, stressing their apostasy from the religion of Yahweh in favor of Baal, thus the Bible retains traces of the worship of multiple gods, both in the region as well as Israel. In this atmosphere, a struggle emerged between those who believe that Yahweh alone should be worshipped and those who worship him within a larger group of gods. The Yahweh alone party, the party of the prophets and the Deuteronomists, triumphed, and their victory lies behind the biblical narrative of an Israelite vacillating between periods of following other gods and periods of fidelity to Yahweh. 586 BC, Jerusalem fell to the Neo-Babylonians. The temple was destroyed, and the leadership of the community was deported. For the next 50 years, the Babylonian exile was of pivotal importance to the history of Israel's religion. But in 539 BCE, Babylon in turn fell to Persia. The conqueror Cyrus the Great gave the exiles permission to return, although only a minority did so, and by about 500 BC, the temple was rebuilt. But towards the end of the Second Temple period, speaking the name of Yahweh in public became regarded as taboo. When reading from the scriptures, Jews began to substitute the name with the word Adonai, meaning my Lord. The high priest of Israel was permitted to speak the name once in the temple during the Day of Atonement, but at no other time and in no other place. And during the Hellenistic period, the scriptures were translated into Greek for the Jews who were now in Egypt. Greek translations of the Hebrew scriptures rendered both Adonai and Kyrios, meaning the Lord, for the name of Yahweh. The period of Persian rule saw the development of expectation in a future human king who would rule purified Israel as Yahweh's representative at the end of time, an anointed one, a Messiah. The first mention of this was from prophets of the early Persian period. They saw the Messiah, a descendant of the house of David, who seemed briefly to be about reestablishing the ancient royal line. And those early hopes were dashed, and therefore there are merely general references to a Messiah of David. And from these ideas, Christianity, Rabbinic Judaism, and Islam would later emerge. Islam would develop this deity into the name of Allah, beginning in the 7th century. And whoever Yahweh was originally, and however he is worshipped today, forms the basis of the three great monotheistic religions of the world. But this was not the Father of Jesus. If you know Jesus, you know the Father. Just more food for thought.
Thanks for watching this and all.
Howdy! My name is Wendy Selvig. I've been a lurker on your channel for the past 6 months and really enjoy it. We have a lot in common, especially when it comes to recognizing El Elyon as the Father Jesus came to point us to, not Yahweh. I wanted to introduce myself because there aren't many of us around teaching this, and, well, I just thought we should know each other. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I am happily married with 3 boys, and I have a couple of degrees from Bible colleges. That is not a brag at all, just shows how far I've come from not believing in Yahweh. I have a book on the topic of Yahweh called The Yahweh Deception. I will attach the PDF version to this email. If you are interested, I could mail you a hard copy as well. Do you entertain sponsorships? I've never done anything like that before, but maybe I could pay you to review the book or something. And if not, that's okay too. Let me know if that interests you. Blessings to you and all you do. Wendy Selvig, AbbaUnveiled.com.
Well, why not? I just recently did a video where I said,
I believe most people who have read the whole Bible would have a question in their mind. Why is the Old Testament God Yahweh so different from the one Jesus talks about in the New Testament?
Yahweh is not the Father. He is actually who Jesus came to set us free from. And a lot of atheism comes from reading the Old Testament, concluding that God is evil.
So like a curious traveler on a quest, we embark upon a journey of information. Stay with us for a ride into knowledge.
So, embarrassing story, guys. I got hit with a medical bill recently and I did not have enough money to pay for it. But a friend of mine mentioned that she got this $5,000 loan recently and it really helped her out. So I decided to try it. And I went to fastloanadvance.com, the site right here, and I picked the amount that I wanted. I chose the $5,000 and all I had to do was answer a few easy questions, you guys, and it literally took no time. And the money showed up in my account the next day. Oh, and if you're wondering, my credit score sucks, 520, but I still got approved. So there's no hidden fees. There's nothing crazy. It's just a super quick process. So if you're stuck with a medical bill or anything unexpected, definitely go ahead and tap below and check it out.
Sales calls, scammers. Arm yourself and avoid unwanted calls. Bin Verified's reverse phone search is a powerful tool that can help you discover more behind a phone number. Simply enter a phone number and see what you can find. Try now.
So, I guess we're on the same page with this issue. Now, here's my take on Wendy's book. Its structure is half academic and half mystical autobiography. It uses real textual, critical insights, like the fact Yahweh and El were once distinct beings in early Canaanite religion. And it takes these insights into a full-blown dualistic theology bordering on Christianized Gnosticism. Now, I'm in with that. Now, just in the first chapter, she sets the premise, saying the Old Testament is veiled, obscuring the true Father's identity. She explains the veil was created through scribal redactions that inserted Yahweh where El Elyon originally stood. She says Jesus came to lift that veil from the people's minds and hearts. Adding, Paul hinted at this in 2 Corinthians 3:14 through 16.
But their minds were made dull, for to this day the same veil remains when the Old Covenant is read. It has not been removed, because only in Christ is it taken away. Even to this day when Moses is read, a veil covers their hearts. But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away.
Now, she also points out Jesus avoided using the names Yahweh or in the Greek Kyrios, meaning Jesus intentionally distanced himself from Yahweh. The book sees the ransom Jesus paid as not being paid to God the Father, but to Yahweh's legal system, freeing humanity from its domination. I've come to the same conclusions on that. Wendy insists this isn't rebellion, but revelation, that Jesus' mission was to expose a cosmic identity thief. Now let me add here, however you read this depends on how allergic you are to the idea of Yahweh being the villain. I'm with you, sister. Yahweh is not the same being as the Father that Jesus reveals in the New Testament. And Wendy claims it has distorted Christianity for millennia. The Yahweh Deception, again, that's the name of the book. It isn't light theology. It's part mystic diary and part spiritual courtroom drama. She writes like she's found the missing cheat codes to Christian cosmology. She claims the Old Testament underwent major redactions where ancient scribes replaced the name of the Most High, El Elyon, with Yahweh, merging the two original distinct figures. Now, of course, El Elyon was the benevolent Most High, the true Father of Jesus, and Yahweh was a lesser divine being, once an angelic or national god assigned to Israel, later conflated with El Elyon. The book asserts that Jesus came not to fulfill Yahweh's system, but to expose and free humanity from it, revealing the true Father who is relational, not legalistic or wrathful. She reads Scripture through a dual God lens, citing Deuteronomy 32:8-9, Psalms 82, and Genesis 14 as the oldest texts that distinguish El Elyon, the Most High, from Yahweh. Now, adding later redactions, post-exile Jewish scribes allegedly erased the distinction to promote monotheism. I have indeed come up with the same conclusions. And with Jesus' refusal to use the divine name, she says that it proves he deliberately avoided association with Yahweh. I like it. Every act of violence or law obsession in the Hebrew Bible, plagues, genocide, wrath, they are all attributed to Yahweh, not the Father. She goes on, the Sermon on the Mount, forgiveness without sacrifice and love of enemies are framed as Jesus' direct rejection of Yahweh's ethic of punishment. She treats the crucifixion as a ransom from Yahweh's legal system, not a payment to the Father. And she points out the Father would never demand blood. Captors do that. Jesus' mission was to end Yahweh's covenant of legalism and restore access to Elyon's realm, the Melchizedek order, which was superior to the Levitical law. I've gone over that as well. She portrays modern Christianity as still subconsciously enslaved to Yahweh's legal framework. And at this point, I have to say that I and the Salvigs are obviously reading each other's mail, because I agree with this book 100% to this point. Now, after the theological build-up, the book turns mystical and a little preachy for me. It includes engagement exercises for meditating on the Father's presence and sanctifying imagination. In chapter 30, Wendy recounts visions, dreams, and heavenly court encounters with Jesus and Abba Father. She describes seeing the Father as light and love, contrasted with Yahweh's dark, judgmental aura. And then later chapters narrate symbolic meetings in heaven, where Jesus and wisdom figures explain cosmic governance and the Melchizedek order. It speaks of Second Temple theology, divine council ideas, and let's just say quasi-legal ritual called divorcing Yahweh. The intention is meant to sever spiritual alliances to the false god. Wendy positions herself with a new spiritual movement she calls Abba Unveiled, meant to liberate Christians from fear-based religion. In my research, I have come to basically the same conclusions. For sure, the key takeaways are the Father of Jesus is not the Jewish God Yahweh. As well, Jesus' life and death exposed Yahweh's counterfeit authority. And this is the big one. She says modern believers need to reclaim the true Father, restoring intimacy, joy, and direct divine relationship beyond institutional religion. In short, her book is part theological provocation, part mystical testimony. She mixes academic language, Gnostic echoes, and modern charismatic spirituality. She paints Christianity as recovering from a 2,500-year-old identity theft where the Father of love was overwritten by a God of war. Now, whether you call this book Revelation or Revisionism, it's the kind of book that will have pastors turning red and stuttering, mystics nodding up and down and sideways, and textual critics brewing more coffee and starting to smoke again. I know I didn't give it all away, so just wait till she meets that blue-skinned alien at the Star Council headquarters. It was a good read, especially knowing in my heart, as soon as Christianity moves on from its mythical Jewish roots of a wrathful, jealous God and endorses the God of love that Jesus told us about, the better off it will be. Christianity might even make it through the next new age. Pick yourself up a copy of her book at her website. Support somebody that thinks like us. Just more food for thought.
Is an ancient book, and the honest reader will admit that its passages are sometimes difficult to understand. Even the words of Jesus can be difficult and prone to speculation and even misinterpretation. A case in point is the sayings in the Sermon on the Mount, one of which is, "The light of the body is the eye. Thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness." Every Bible translation attempts to explain this saying by clarifying the phrases about one's eye, and various translations use terms like clear eye or bad eye, healthy eye or unhealthy eye, eyes are good or eyes are bad. None of these adequately explain the idea from Jesus to the modern readers, and this opens the door for all sorts of interpretations. One of the ways this has been explained is this passage of Scripture is how we might come to know the truth on any matter. Note that if my eye is single, my entire body, or if you will, my entire life, will be full of light, and light is truth. The opposite is likewise true. If my eye be evil, then my entire life, including my understanding of the Father, will be filled with darkness. And evil eye is obviously the opposite of a single eye. It is a condition of the heart that is not one with the purpose of the Father. The important thing to understand from this passage is that my relationship, my motives, my intents determines my understanding about everything else. In short, in order to see the light about anything, we have to be rightly related to Jesus, the light himself. We must be one with the light, walk with the light as he is in the light, in order to see truth. Then in his light, we see the light. All of this sounds a bit mechanical, but we are here talking about a moral and spiritual relationship with God the Father through the teachings of Jesus.
So, like a curious traveler on a quest, we embark upon a journey of information. Stay with us for a ride into knowledge.
Now we move a little further into what some believe that Jesus was speaking of the single eye as the third eye or the inner eye of enlightenment. Some speak of the pineal gland, and it is known as the seat of the soul. It is a gland of illumination, intuition, and cosmic consciousness, and is associated with the crown chakra, your halo. Chakra is a Sanskrit word meaning wheel. The sixth of the seven chakra is often called the third eye. It is also called the seat of the mind and is known as the gland of reason. This is about Jesus in an esoteric, holistic way that transcends even the doctrine of Christianity. In my opinion, no matter what religion you are or are not, Jesus is a way shower, and I would argue that his power and magnificence have been diminished by narrow interpretations of his teachings. Most of us have been told we should strive to be like Jesus, but we've also been told we can't really be like Jesus. He was special because he's God and you are not. That's a deception, only to keep us powerless and controlled. Plus, it contradicts everything Jesus said and did during his ministry. Verily, verily, I say to you, he that believeth on me, the works that I should do, shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do. Yes, Jesus spent his ministry trying to awaken us to the nature of our being, not his. Travel deep into the center of your brain and you will find a pine cone-shaped gland, the size of only a grain of rice. This tiny gland plays an essential role in how we sleep, perform, make decisions, and perceive reality. A healthy functioning pineal is essential for psychological development, peak performance, and spiritual awakening. The pineal gland acts as the body's light meter. It receives light information from the eyes and then sends out hormonal messages to the body. The pineal gland tells every other part of your body whether it's light or dark out, what season you're in, and whether days are getting longer or shorter. Momentarily remove yourself from our modern environment with clocks and calendars and you'll immediately appreciate the vital role this gland plays in maintaining our connection with nature. Light exposure to our eyes mainly determines how much melatonin the pineal synthesizes and secretes. We produce less melatonin in daylight hours and increase secretion during the night. Unlike most of our brain, blood-brain barrier doesn't isolate the pineal from the rest of our body. Instead, the pineal gets a tremendous amount of blood flow, second only to the kidney. In the 1990s, a British scientist, Jennifer Luke, discovered high concentrations of fluoride in the pineal gland of her subjects. Fluoride, commonly found in most municipal water as well as pesticides, accumulates in the pineal more than any other part of the body. This accumulation of fluoride forms phosphate crystals, creating a hard shell around the pineal called calcification. Just like your eyes with age get cataracts, studies show that pineal gland can haze over with calcification, and that lowers production of melatonin, which impairs the sleep-wake cycle. Fluoridated water is believed to be one of the chief causes of calcification in the pineal gland. Simply put, when our pineal gland is calcified, we are out of balance with nature, impeding proper biological functioning. In many ways, the pineal is our body's connection with the natural world. Sever that connection, by a calcification, and you have a race of beings mostly disconnected from their instincts, from their planet, and from each other. Without a fully functioning pineal gland, media messages more easily program us. False belief systems shape us. Poor decisions plague us. Simply put, a calcified pineal gland limits our potential. If thine eye be single. When Jesus said, if therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light, I think he is not speaking of our physical eyes. He must be speaking of the spiritual third eye. He wants us to be fully awake, follow his teachings. I think we have to be truly awake to follow his teachings. Or are we waking as we go? Huh. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me, believes my teachings of truth, he will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these shall we do. Eye is the lamp of the body, so then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. You know, when I was a kid, I remember hearing that, stuff like that, eye of the lamp, and even as not a child. But I've always thought of it, I never related that to really being our physical eye. To me, it always had to mean something else.
Just more food for thought.
Thanks for watching this and all our videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until we meet again, stay curious, fellow travelers, and have a great day.
Hey, before we start this episode, here's a quick preview of what's coming up. It pays to know your civics, literally. In this competitive game show Street Smarts, test your knowledge about U.S. history and government as Uncle Sam quizzes contestants. Enjoy the rest of our videos for all ages when you subscribe at PragerU.com. Today's episode of Street Smart Civics Edition is on the United States Constitution. Visit PragerUKids.com to download this awesome infographic and play along. This is Street Smarts, a game show on the streets where contestants are rewarded for their knowledge. Street Smarts! Woo! Thank you all so much. This is great.
Hey everyone, we are back in Santa Monica here for another episode of Street Smart Civics Edition. I'm Selena Lewis with
Uncle Sam.
With PragerU Kids, and we are here seeing what kids know about the U.S. Constitution. Let's go.
Let's find out.
Woo!
Tag, you're it.
No, wait.
Let's do this. Ready to win some money.
Awesome. Let's go. You ready to get started? So there's going to be a total of 8 questions, and it's $5 per question. The final question is worth $20. Now, you can ask for a clue for $2 and ask a friend or a parent for $5. And if you answer incorrectly, that is elimination. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Amelia, question number 1. The first part of the Constitution, called the preamble, begins with the phrase, we the...
Can I have help?
You can ask for help. You can ask for a clue. What is everyone called around here?
People.
All right, so put it together.
We are people?
We...
The people. Sorry.
There we go.
There
we the
we
people.
go.
Nice job,
Starting
Amelia.
off
Starting off strong. The first part of the Constitution, called the preamble, begins with the phrase, we the...
People?
There we go. Say it loud and proud.
The people.
We the people.
Nailed
Go,
it.
Kenzie.
Oh,
Go,
sorry, I was
Kenzie.
giving you the money. I'll take a high five, too.
We the...
Nation?
We the people.
We the people.
You to be ignorant, brothers, concerning those who have fallen asleep, so that you don't grieve like the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Jesus. For this we tell you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will in no way precede those who have fallen asleep. The Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the archangel, and with God's trumpet. The dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who who are left, we will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet in the air. So we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore comfort one another with these words.
So like a curious traveler on a quest, we embark upon a journey of information. Stay with us for a ride into knowledge.
This video should explain why I've been asking about Marcion and Paul's work. Anyway, we'll circle back to this Paul verse that Will just read in a bit. First, the authors of the Gospels didn't come up with many new ideas. Most of what they talked about in the New Testament was already part of the Jewish beliefs. When they did introduce new ideas, like healing on the Sabbath or allowing non-Jews into their community, they backed it up with strong arguments from Jewish scriptures. Usually they agreed with existing Jewish views and used similar language as the others around them did. So how could Paul talk about something new, like the rapture, when important figures like Moses, the prophets, and even Jesus himself didn't mention it? It's hard to believe Jesus would skip over such an important topic without even mentioning it, don't you think? But as Will said, that's where the relatively new idea comes from, Paul's verse. Now, what if he was speaking of something not so new? Could this expectation of being snatched up be reconciled with the traditional Jewish perspective? As we said, the gospel authors were speaking to the Jewish population. Let's explore Paul's snatched up and the established Jewish idea of ingathering. Now keep in mind that verse that we started with. Near the end of Deuteronomy, the Torah delivers a terrifying litany of curses that culminate in the destruction of the nation and the exile of the Jewish people. Moses declared, Yahweh will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other. But then a couple of chapters later, Yahweh promises to gather his scattered people from the exile. Now, if your outcasts are in the utmost parts of heaven, from there Yahweh your God will gather you, and from there he will take you. Here's the clue. In the first century, Jews expected the Messiah to be the agent of that ingathering. For example, an early opponent of the coming of the Messiah, it changed the verse by saying, though you may be dispersed unto the ends of the heavens, from there will the word of Yahweh gather you together by the hand of Elijah, the great priest, and from there will he bring you by the hand of the King Messiah.
They focus intensely. They thrive on routine. Sometimes they respond in ways you don't expect. Seeing signs of autism in your child, we're here to guide you. With the right support, your child can reach milestone moments. We are here for your family. No-cost autism screeners, diagnostic support, personalized ABA therapy. Get started today at actionbehavior.com/autism.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
It all starts with the moment worth sharing.
That looks good.
Thanks, Doc.
Oh! We need the wildflower.
Get the corner, that'd be great.
Oh, nicely
done.
Yes. Hi. Cheers.
This one's for my girls. I got you something.
Oh, it's a puzzle! Wow, I love it.
Got this for you.
Oh, let's see. What's this?
Go ahead and scan that QR code.
Okay. Is that us singing?
Yep.
Wow. Oh, that was so fun.
Moments worth living. Gifts worth giving.
And ever since the days of the Assyrian, Babylonian, and Roman exiles, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, have remained scattered around the globe. And Moses and the prophets promised that one day God would collect his elect and chosen people from the four corners of the earth and bring them back to the ancient homeland. The Talmud even says the day of the ingathering of the exiles is as important as the day when heaven and earth were created. The prophets all testified regarding this great return to the land. Now, for example, Yahweh said through Isaiah that he would assemble the banished of Israel and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. He declared through Jeremiah, I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and I will bring them back to the fold. And through the prophet Ezekiel, Yahweh said, I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. Isaiah connected the ingathering of the exiles and the return to the land of Israel with the sounding of a trumpet. He said, in that day a great trumpet will blow, and those who were lost in the land of Assyria and those who were driven out of the land of Egypt will come and worship the Lord on the holy mountain of Jerusalem. Ezekiel connected the ingathering of the exiles with the coming of the Messiah in a passage that speaks of Yahweh returning the Jewish people to the land and appointing a Davidic king over the nation. And notice how the prophet used the name David as the title for Messiah. And behold, I will take the people of Israel from the nations among which they have gone, and will gather them from all around and bring them to their own land. And one king shall be king over all of them. My servant David shall be king over them. Ezekiel also linked the ingathering with the resurrection of the dead. At the conclusion of Ezekiel's vision of the valley of the dry bones, Yahweh explained to the exiles of Israel, I will open your graves and raise you from the nations, O my people, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. Now that's why Jewish eschatology associates the sound of the great trumpet that will herald in the ingathering of Israel and the coming of the Messiah with the resurrection of the dead. The trumpet of Messiah will summon the exiles and awaken the dead.